Here.
Here.
Okay. First up, finance report.
All right, for the month of July, for the month ending July 31st, 2024, in the sewer operations, the revenue total as to date is $1,883,680, which is favorable to budget by 103.5. The good part about this, and Bruce will go in a little more in depth, sewer taps are finally on track, and they have now exceeded their budgetary amount. There was a little lag in the weather and stuff, but Bruce and his team now is installing sewer traps at the budgeted pace, so that's a good thing to hear. Expenses, of course, are up. This is mainly cost of the equipment. There's been a pretty substantial increase in the price of some of the materials that they use for the sewer taps, and that's why expenses are unfavorable to budget by about $32K. The net surplus of $346,000 on a budget of $275, so that makes it a favorable budget of about 70 grand. Currently, cash is strong, operating at 1.3 million, and capital at 2.9 million. As far as the POA and amenities go, the current revenue to date is 13 million or 13.2 million, which is unfavorable to budget by about 393,000. Most of that related to the food and beverage budget. Cost of sales is about 1.4, and it's unfavorable to budget by 78K. That again is, we had budgeted 35% cost of sales, and right now it's about 42. So that's where the difference in that happens. Expenses are 11.7 million, which are favorable to budget by 533. Now, when I say that they're currently favorable to budget, there's a big expenditure, which is we've only been billed about 90,000 for the road paving. That total road paving is about 450,000. So a lot of it, it's a timing issue. So a lot of that road paving billing has not come in yet. So obviously you'll see that amount being eroded as we go along and as the roads get paved and as those bills come in. So the net surplus right now is 93K. We're favorable to budget by about 62K. Currently, cash in operations is 4.8 million. Capital is 4.8 million. Total operating is 1.6 million. And the reserve all combined is 6.6 million. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got some questions, Jonathan. On the balance sheet, first of all, I appreciate adding the capital reserve fund and the R&M reserve fund. The capital reserve fund, I assume, was the $1 million that we approved in the budget for 2024. That's what moved down to that line?
Well, it was 900 something thousand, yes, but that is from the reserve study. That is the actual capital and operating portion of the reserve study.
Okay, but the board approved back in December $1 million for the capital amenity reserve.
That goes into the reserve, yes, and then we always split it out at the end.
Okay, but as I look at the two balance sheets from last month to this month under capital improvements, it didn't change that much. And I would have expected capital improvements number to drop because you moved money down to the capital reserve fund. So I'm not understanding how that happens.
Well, no, what we did was from the operating reserve, we allocated the reserve study funds of 900 and something thousand.
Yeah, but that was for R&M.
No, it was for R&M and capital.
No, we approved $1 million for capital reserve. We did. It's in the budget. Yes, you can use the operating reserve either way, but when we passed the budget in December, there was $1 million in that budget for capital reserve.
I'll have to check with you
Okay,
on that
okay.
exactly.
All right, thanks.
Because I know, okay.
And so the R&M reserve includes the Q1, Q2, and
All
Q3,
Q3s,
Q4
yes.
cars, or funding that
Correct.
we did, plus the golf expense as well.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Can we go to page 27 in the package? Under golf, it says preferred golf is $286,500 unfavorable, but we're 916 rounds favorable, so I don't understand how that can be. It's the first line under golf.
Yeah, I'm
Total,
looking at that.
total amenities. It says preferred golf is $286,500 unfavorable, yet we're 916 rounds favorable in preferred golf.
It's the budgeted amount of the dollars per round.
That's a chunk of change.
Yeah.
It's 916
I'll
favorable.
get you the complete breakdown after this.
Please, because
Yeah.
we're 916 rounds favorable. I would have expected that number to be favorable.
Yeah, I'll get you the detail on it.
Okay. Question on page 28 under marinas. Why do we not have a revenue line for marinas?
Because this is a variance report.
Yeah, but you have revenue lines for all the other amenities.
Well, it's based on a dollar amount or a percentage that we put in a variance report.
Okay, so there's no variance in the revenue on marinas?
There's not one that needs to be discussed, no.
Okay, all right, all right. The other one goes page 33. That's your spreadsheet on available capital.
Correct.
I would suggest you moved over the balance, and Bruce, we talked about this. You moved over the balance for IT computer networking equipment over to available capital. I would strongly encourage us not to do that because I believe our IT folks are going to need that money between now and the end of the year.
All right, I can move it.
Okay?
All right.
All right, thank you.
Again, it's the difference between allocated and.
I understand, but
I
that
know.
money's really not available.
All right.
I'm hunching my IT buddies back there would like to have that for some things.
Okay.
That's all. Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Tom.
Is this on?
I don't know.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Tom Ratcliffe. Couple of things, just in your comments that you have, that you give to us about POA and amenities. You know, there is the whole thing about food and beverage, and all I'm looking for, I know we don't have anything, I would have hoped there would have been something from Bobby Jones in
Well,
here saying.
We have something, we're going to get to that.
So you have it?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, thank you.
It was not received from them until last night.
Okay, thank you. You also mentioned in here that the police department won't be eligible for grants moving forward.
That's what we were informed, yes.
About how much is that? Because it just says we're not going to be informed.
It's
but,
it's
yeah,
about 30,000.
About 30,000, okay.
That's what was received in the current year.
Okay, good, that helps. You guys were talking about it here, about the rounds of golf. And we had that last month, a number that Greg mentioned, Scott was going to check into it. But as you guys were talking about the difference, the variance in budget that we're, I think Bruce Cox, you said we were 900 rounds?
At 916 preferred rounds.
Preferred
round.
Preferred rounds.
Right.
Okay, so the overall variance to budget according to our report, which is 345 rounds better than budget that we're at right now, overall. That's a correct number? And I'm asking that because I'm leading to another point about our report. And it was, again, we had quoting in numbers last month, and there was a difference. But the variance I show on the report you give us is we are 345 rounds better than budget. Yes, is that's correct. So in other words, the part in there that you talk about in explanations on rounds, you talk about golf is below budget because we lost rounds.
Well, year-to-date, we're.
Year-to-date, we are positive 345 rounds above budget, according to the report you give us.
There was two different reports last month. One of them
That's-
showed one number, and another one,
Yeah.
the one that Tom's referring to, showed a higher number.
Higher number, yeah.
And that's why I'm asking the question, because I'll go to my next point. And my next point is, we as members, I'm not an attorney, so take it my interpretation of the Tennessee Code, we are entitled to the same financial reports that you guys get. And it's for that reason, so that you're not giving us information that's different than what you guys are making decisions off of. So what I'm asking is that, moving forward, we get the same information that you guys get in your packages, per my understanding of Tennessee Code. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the financials? Yeah, go ahead, Ted.
Ted Landers. Just one question. You recently passed the increase in the, and I'm going to screw up the name of it, you can correct me, the when property sells.
The amenity fee?
Yes, thank you, the amenity fee. Is there a way that that can be shown on the budget stuff that you present to us, what the different 4 categories, what you project and what the actuals are? Because obviously that has a huge impact on our overall finances in terms of being able to fund the reserve study.
Well, the projections we've done are over a year. They're not month by month. We are going to, unfortunately, the person who does the tracking for us is out with a pickleball injury, of all things. And so we really need to sit down with her and talk to her about that. And we have every intention to do that, because there's a couple things that happened August 1st, okay? And we received a letter from the realtors, and I'll go through that a little bit. But 2 things happened. First of all, starting July 1st, was our amenity fee increase. Second of all, as of August 1st, the buyer is now splitting the realtor fee with the seller for those fees. Now, it's real hard to tell because we don't know what the fees are on the realtor side. We know what our amenity fees are. So what the best thing for us to track are home sales, okay? So that we know, or we can take a look at what those home sales have done, and are they keeping up with our projections, okay? So we have to put that in place. I know Adrian is going to do that. Yep. The problem is that we're just not, she's not available for us to talk to right now.
Well, that's okay, but at least if we could get it on a quarterly basis, just to see how we're doing.
Well, we're going to be looking at it every month.
Because obviously you've got the number, and it's.
Now, the thing that's going to be a little screwy, I know, from talking to her, is that we had a rush of people that got documents in to close on homes or contracts to build new homes in June.
Yeah.
And some of those are going to spill into July, August, September, even longer than that, because those homes won't be built for a while. But we said that anybody who got their paperwork in by the end of June, we would go with the older fee. So there's going to be some sorting out of that, Ted.
All right. Well, one of the things that we did when we were in our townhome association, we ran it, is that obviously things like snow removal only occurred during the 5 months of winter.
Right.
And we didn't divide those numbers by 12. We actually weighted the budget for those items so that snowfall expenses only came in those 5 months
Right.
where it did. And I would think that you'd be able to do the same thing from a historical perspective, that, you know, X% of properties sell in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, so that you could kind of weigh it like that so it doesn't get out of whack.
Yeah, one of the key things, and I looked through it in this month's reporting, is, you know, Sam every month gives us the new homes and those statistics. Those are probably the first key things to look at, because if we see big differences there, then we know we're going to have a problem, or we're going to be to the good. But those things I know we can look at, and they're not far off from where we were in 2023 or 2022. But remember, we've only had literally 1 month of this experience.
Please understand, I wasn't beating the board up. I was just asking.
No.
for stuff, so-
I get you, and it's the same
Thank you.
information we want to see too. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Okay? Any other questions? Okay? Hearing none. Bruce Evans, wastewater.
Morning. Is it on? Nico, is it on? Just a quick update on the sewer extension on St. George, Tawny Oak Loop, and Fox Den Court. The portion of St. George Drive is completed. We're about 85 to 90% done on Tawny Oak Loop, and we have not started on Fox Den Court yet. I think another 2 weeks before we'll be done on Tawny Oak Loop, and then it will take us approximately a week to 2 weeks on Fox Den Court. I'm going to be presenting a CAR for the next sewer extension this morning as well. So another month before we're off of that project, another month or 5 weeks before we're off on that project, and hopefully we can get another project started. So any questions?
Bruce, have there been any interruptions?
None whatsoever. The one mistake that we did was clip a gas service, Ken. The gas services were installed years ago by East Tennessee Gas or whatever, and the gas service was actually only 6 inches under the ground. And so one scratch of the bucket and we clipped the gas service. So it was quickly repaired, and other than that, no interruption to services at all. So.
Any other questions?
All righty.
All
Thanks.
right. Sam? Community maintenance.
Good morning. Community maintenance architectural controls report for this month is as follows. Miscellaneous approvals through July 2024 is 1,129. Through July 2023 is 1,248. New homes approved through July of 2024 is 71, and through the same time last year is 65. New homes completed through July 2024 is 67, and the same time last year was 65. Is there any questions on that? I also have the ACC met and reviewed the changes that were supplied and the feedback given on the tree policy, and as a result, they have made 2 changes to the current tree policy as it was submitted to the board. On page 1, definition item A3, they changed mature tree. It used to say 6 inches diameter. It is now 3 inches diameter. On item 10, the definitions, the excessive cutting used to say anytime there are less required minimum number of existing trees on the property, and they added it or in each zone. Those are the only comments that the Architectural Controls Committee felt that needed to be changed to the policy as submitted to the board. Any question? Thank you.
Okay. Bill, General Manager's report.
Thank you. Just want to update, as board is aware, and for the members and residents that are here today, the budget process is well underway for the 2025 budget. The SMTs have submitted their departmental drafts to accounting to Jonathan, and they are currently being inputted, and Jonathan and I are meeting in preparation for our meetings with the SMTs commencing next week. They will then proceed in September to the FAC and brought to the board for review in October. There'll be a schedule of those meetings coming out in the near future. The following cars have been approved by the SMTs and me: Walking Trails 2024 in the amount of $18,000, and the Center HVAC system in the amount of $6,050. The proposed revised document request policy that was up for review is tabled for now. I will revisit and represent as needed this document proposal in September, and it will be reposted for member comment at that time as well. Pleased to announce that a new highly qualified HR director has been hired. She is a Cumberland County native, and we look forward to welcoming her. Her start date is Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024. We've also, I've completed interviews with CFO candidates, and the two finalists will be here to meet with me, SMTs, and spend a day on site next week. I'm very encouraged by the candidates that we have and look forward to the next phase of the process. Bobby Jones Links has hired a new food and beverage director. She has over 30 years experience in food and beverage and club management. She was previously their assistant general manager at East Point, Country Club in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida for the past 5 years. They had hoped to bring her on initially when they came to Fairfield Glade, but due to personal and family reasons, the timing was not right for her. But she has accepted the offer and has found housing and will be starting, I believe, Tuesday of next week. Her name is Linda James. We look forward to welcoming her and her 30 years of experience in food and beverage and club management experience at properties with multiple outlets similar to Fairfield Glade.
Okay?
I also have the report if you want me to share that.
Yeah. What's that?
I have their corporate letter if you want me to share that.
Why don't you go through some of that, yeah.
As I stated earlier, I received the corporate report letter from Bobby Jones Links for the month of July. Highlights are as follows, and I quote, July saw a slowing down of revenues for golf as well as the food and beverage operations. Some of this can be attributed to weather. However, the overall concern is the current economic impact on ancillary spending, such as dining. The slowdown in dining, both at Stonehenge and at the snack bars, is a major concern. Stonehenge revenues continue to lag behind 2023 numbers, producing 10% fewer covers than last year. We have not increased pricing to try to attract more residents to dine. There is still some impressions that the pricing is too high, with some residents still being unclear about the 20% discount they receive. This also leads to higher food costs, but increasing the pricing would further reduce the covers and subsequent revenues at Stonehenge. Cost of sales at Stonehenge is higher than anticipated due to trying to keep the pricing lower for residents, as well as some additional waste with a lower amount of sales. Revenue at the snack bars were slow for July and continues to lag behind 2023 numbers, despite an effort to improve food quality and offerings. June saw an uptick, but July fell behind again. With the increase in better offerings, our revenue per round has increased from $6.13 per round to $6.41 per round. However, overall sales are still lagging behind. We are continuing to offer summer specials such as fish fries, which have a good attendance and positive reviews. We are continuing to get inquiries for small and medium-sized catering events. We have moved Amy into that role to help increase communication and coordination of these events. Amy will also ensure that these are invoiced and processed properly. We have parted ways with our previous manager, focusing on the future of the community. We have hired Linda James as the new food and beverage director. Linda has worked for Bobby Jones Links excuse me, at a large club in South Florida and has 30 years of experience in food and beverage, many of which were managing multiple clubhouses. We are confident that Linda will be a great long-term solution to improve the operations at Fairfield Glade. Linda has a wealth of experience and will be able to manage the current and future operations at Fairfield Glade to improve the financial outlook, as well as service to the community. Linda will be starting on or about August 27th. Once in place, Linda will work on building the team around her for success. Departmental reports. Stonehenge Grill was under budget in revenue by 12%. Overall, our operating revenue is behind prior year to date by $28,766. Cover counts are down by 10%. Revenue per cover is at $17.71 versus previous last year at $16.12. Cost of sales were high as previously mentioned. Payroll is still trending higher. The average wage has increased to fill necessary positions such as line cooks, dishwashers, etc. We are reorganizing the kitchen and the front of house for efficiency to reduce payroll at Stonehenge while continuing to offer adequate service levels. Year-to-date, payroll is at 57% of revenues versus 54% in 2023. Our focus for the remainder of the year is to reduce the payroll to the 54% from previous year. This fall, we will also introduce a special that is a lower price entree to try to attract the residents that are extremely price sensitive. Most large chain casual restaurants have started offering a 2- or 3-course meal for under $15 to try to attract the price-conscious consumer. We will need to follow suit. Snack bars. While the increased food offerings have been well received, it has not incrementally increased revenues at the snack bars. The menus will be adjusted to reduce payroll to having one person execute and some items prepped at Stonehenge. This will help reduce payroll at the snack bars, but still offer an elevated menu offering at the snack bars. The operating revenue was unfavorable to budget by $33,000, but through meticulous oversight of cost of sales and other expenses, we were able to bring that variance towards budget in terms of income much closer to our target, falling short by $9,500. On the horizon, continued event presence with special nights for members, bringing in an exceptional new offering of a food truck, introduce the new food and beverage director and get her assimilated with Fairfield Glade, get her up to speed on the goals set forth for this year and long term. That concludes their corporate report.
Okay. As you can tell, and several people brought this up, there are considerable links that we have to look at, and that's mainly in the preferred member and the regular member and the timeshare areas. Those rounds for golf are down, and usually when those are down, that's going to affect the snack bars. So we're going to have to look at see what's going on with that. And we'll stay on top of that one because that's a big link for us. Because if those start going down, thank goodness the revenue for the packages is up. So the packages are up, but the preferred members and the timeshares are down. And those are the ones we really got to look at pretty closely. Okay. Yeah, Ted.
Ted Landers, just one question. The new hire of Linda James, I think you said was her name, there were 2 open positions that Bobby Jones Links was hiring. One was the position of the gentleman who just left, who was running it before, and then there was also a position that was going to be a new position to oversee things. Which level or which position is Linda hired for?
Linda's hired as the food and beverage director of the entire food and beverage operation for
So
Bobby Jones Links. That is the position that was formerly held by Dustin Maley.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.
First of all, Bill, and thank you and the board for your efforts with Bobby Jones. At least we're getting information. I thought it was good. I didn't like it in terms of the actual results, but at least we're getting information as well.
And when you look at the variance, in my opinion, I mean, their budget projections were extremely aggressive for this year. Their variance is a revenue shortfall, which was a $700,000 increase in 1 year over last year, which is, what it is what it is, but that is a tremendous spike in 1 year for a company that just come in a year. So that's where I think we had a real budget issue there. So just my 2 cents.
I appreciate that. Bill, go back to your document request, because that was kind of put out there, and there was no real explanation to the members when it was put out that I remember hearing at the last meeting as to why we were looking at changing it. And so you've put it off, so I'm glad to hear that. But why were we looking at changing it?
Well, the biggest thing that was brought forward, okay, this was an operational request to look at the policy, was mainly because the number of requests that we're getting, you know, every time that we get a request, especially if it has to take time for the staff to take a look at, that means staff is not doing something that they should be doing. And that's probably the biggest reason, because some of the requests are we're getting to be time sensitive, if you will. They're taking more time than what we thought to get to them. It takes digging by the staff to go find that stuff. And it's not, you know, there were a lot of comments about the paper and how much it cost for copies. Those were not the real reasons. It's more staffing time. Now, there's a yin and a yang to that, right? The point is that we don't staff for everybody to come in and ask a whole bunch of questions and dig through a bunch of documents to get things. That doesn't mean that that's not a legitimate request. It's just that we don't staff for that. So we want to be careful about not overreacting to the amount of staff time that takes. But we're going to review the whole thing again, because we're not certain that what we went for is really what we want. So Bill has got it. He's going to take a look at it. We're going to come back and revisit that whole number, or all that document request form or request policy, and we'll come back with an answer about what we're going to do.
If I may, too, Greg, this initially was put in motion by the interim general manager, and there were some valid issues. It was a question about Tennessee statutes and whether or not what can or cannot be. So that was clarified under Tennessee statute. The document or the proposal that was presented was in accordance with that. However, in my opinion, I felt like, and in talking and consulting with staff in the process, I think that when we have a request that is abnormal or of excessive as far as the amount of work and which involved, those can be handled and managed on a case-by-case basis. So I will communicate to that individual prior to give them the estimated cost of what those documents would be, and they can decide whether or not they want to proceed or not. 95% of the requests are very easily and I just felt that some of that language could be amended to reflect a little more precisely what we have at and when that trigger will take effect. Because it's not a rampant problem of just time consuming for staff. But in those instances when the request is a bit out of the norm, then it needs to be evaluated and communicated ahead of time to the resident that, hey, there's going to be additional cost and it's estimated that it'll come to this. Do you still want us to proceed? And they say, yes, we'll be happy to. So that's where it's at. And I just felt and some of that, and in fairness, was part of what the process is about, was comments back from the residents that reflected some of that same thinking. And so I felt it was prudent to just, all right, we've listened and I've listened, so let's proceed accordingly and when we're all aligned. So,
Thank you for taking that, because you're kind of going where I was going, especially things like the Tennessee Code and so forth, which comes into play. So I appreciate it. I look forward to the new one. Thanks.
Okay. All right, we're into capital authorization requests, cars. Dave, you're first.
So I have two requests this morning. Let's start with Druid. So this will be the smallest request dollar-wise for the Druid project, both in the past and going into the future. Consists of two parts. Let's cover the easiest part first. So in order to demolish the existing clubhouse, the state requires a report to find out if we have any hazardous materials in the building, such as asbestos. So identified two companies out of Knoxville that do this kind of thing. What they do is they come in, they take samples, and then they send those samples to a state laboratory. And then we get a report that will be submitted to the state when we apply to tear the building down. So I got two proposals, one for $2,500, the other for $4,300. And there was no reason not to go with the $2,500 proposal. So that's what I'm proposing. The second requires my explanation. So going on almost 3 years now, working on this project, we identified early on that we wanted to have a team approach to having the architect and a contractor working together with us for this project, because it is the largest project Fairfield has undertaken, cost-wise. And so I did research into what general contractors in the general vicinity have built similar facilities. So I was looking for people that have built clubhouses, have built restaurants. I wasn't looking for house builders, obviously, or people that build auto dealerships or, common facilities. So we identified 3 companies, 2 of them out of Knoxville, 1 out of Alcoa. We said, looks like these are good companies. We interviewed them, got references, checked all of that. They all came back good. So we asked for proposals based on fees. And so the fees we were looking at are pre-construction services, general conditions, meaning what's it going to cost us to have a project manager, project superintendent, a construction trailer, porta potties, all that kind of stuff. What's that number? And then what's your overhead and profit number, including what you're going to charge us for administering the subcontractors. Part of this process is once the engineering and design is complete, they must bid 100% of the work. So a lot of these general contractors self-perform some work. They have to go out and get bids against themselves. And And so the CAR that I'm presenting today simply covers the pre-construction services. So we will be committing with this CAR to the general contractor we're going to use. And so the amount for pre-construction services, and what that entails is they're going to look at constructability in working with the architect. They're going to look at value engineering as the design progresses, not wait till the end. And they're going to give us up-to-date cost estimates at various stages of the design. So we're going to know what we're looking at. You know, the traditional method has been the architect finishes his job, you put the project out to bid, and let's say you have a $5 million budget and the prices come back at $6 million. Well, now you got to go back to the architect and pay him to redesign something. This approach, this team approach, avoids that. And so we feel very strongly, and the industry is going in this direction, especially in these days of high inflation. And so we did get 3 proposals. We interviewed all 3. We chose the one that we felt would do the best job, but they also had what we think is the best price. And so I'm asking for $15,000 for the pre-construction services. So the total CAR is $18,500 with a $1,000 contingency. As I say, this will be the smallest I've ever asked for. So are there any questions on this one?
For the board, I want to emphasize the fact that when this is approved, we're actually committing to J&G to be the contractor of the Druid Hills project in its entirety.
That's correct.
No, I don't believe that's true, is it?
That wasn't the.
That wasn't, that isn't the note on the.
I understand what I read the note from the FAC on their recommendation, but we cannot go to a contractor, whether it's J&G or somebody else, and say, we want you to come in and do this, and then we rebid that at the end of that, because that process doesn't work that way, and all 3 of these companies are currently doing that with other projects, and that's how they committed to this, so.
Well, the question that was unclear to the FAC was that when you commence pre-construction services, that is the first point in which they will.
You're talking to the mic?
Yeah, they can't hear you.
Yes, I can. The concern of the FAC, or what was not clear to them, was that to commit when you start pre-construction services, that at the time when they receive at the end of that process construction drawings from Vic Jones, and the scope of the project is clear, is their fee going to change at that time?
Fee will not change.
Okay, because we did not have a copy of that or the writing of that available to them for that to be clarified, because it was clear in all the reasons, which are valid, and they're a great firm, but the FAC's concern was there general conditions or any of their estimated fees going to be changed once the final construction drawings were completed? And the answer to that is no, and
They will not.
we have that agreement. So
Okay.
we need that agreement? Copy of that?
Well, we're not approving the whole thing. Let's start there,
Well,
okay?
that's not what he's,
Well, hold on. A reasonable person, however, would probably deduce that if in fact they do a good job on this, they would continue on. So we're only approving just the one piece today, and we'll deal with the other when we see what the performance is on this piece. So I understand what,
It's not the way that we presented the project to these three contractors. It's not the way they bid the project.
Where is the agreement?
Then we need to see that agreement.
Where is the agreement?
All we have is a proposal at this point.
So
As
where
soon
do we
as
have
the
in
board
writing what you,
As soon as the board approves proceeding, I will work with the contractor on the contract. It'll spell all this out.
but it's a bit of a chicken and an egg, isn't it? You're saying we need the money before we can show you the document that says this is what the terms are.
This is
Why
the
can't
way
we see the
been-
document prior to approving the money?
This is the way we've been doing business ever since I've been involved.
Well, I don't have a,
I've
a,
been told I cannot talk to the contractor specifically about him getting the job until the board has approved it. Many times.
but we, okay, with all due respect, we don't have a copy of what we're approving. We're being asked to give monies for pre-construction services and that their fees will not go up, but you can't see the document or sign it until you get the go-ahead. I don't, that seems a bit backwards.
Well, you can't commit to the contractor until the money is approved, because we don't have any money to commit to them. And so that, all this is asking for is the money to commit to that.
Correct.
That's all.
well, hold on.
We don't have a contract that spells out what they're doing. It's just, this is to get them, and then.
We
Hold
have
on,
it.
hold on. And then we're approving the money, and they're gonna get the contract for pre-constructive services and Druid,
Yes.
and we have not seen this contract. All we've seen is, this is what it's gonna cost for pre-construction stuff.
I can't vote.
Now, we've got the dollars from each of those contractors for the entire
I understand
project.
the dollars. Has anybody seen the contract?
There is no contract.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. You are committing $15,000 to a contractor that will guarantee that he does the pre-construction material and gets the contract without actually seeing the contract and what that entails.
Well, we're not going to give him the $15,000 till we have the contract, Sam.
Did you not say earlier that this contract will go to this company with this money?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you are granting the contract.
But they don't, Sam, they don't know that yet. None of these contractors know who it is we selected. Once we get the approval of the money, David will contact the winning contractor, and they will sit down and write a contract for whoever give them $1.
Well, I understand that, but I guess how did you select the one of the three without seeing what that contract for each of them entails?
We have that.
We had
And the FAC has seen that, and the board has seen that.
Well, clearly the FAC has questions on it, with the question being.
I haven't seen it.
where's the contract?
Hold on.
Hey, you
I have
saw it.
not seen it. The general manager hasn't seen it.
The general manager has seen it. We passed it out at the FAC meeting.
Okay. I expressed concerns about awarding a contract to somebody without knowing what's in that contract.
All right. We're going to use a standard AIA contract. One of the things we asked in the proposal was, do you have any exceptions you would take on that standard contract? The answer was no, we have no exceptions. So we both know what contract we're going to use. We just have not plugged in the numbers the actual information into it.
Well, if you award this contract to one company based on this, what happens if the other companies say we can build it cheaper? You're not even gonna consider that.
That's correct, or no?
So this company could submit this, you're selecting this company based on the fact that they're gonna submit a standard contract, do pre-construction stuff. If the other companies say, this contract, we can build this facility for 14 million and this contract wants 15 million, you are going to go with this contract.
Well,
They're not going to have an option to bid the project.
understand, Sam, that they're going to bid all the way through this, and they may not actually get the work. They may end up contracting all the work out to other subs other than themselves. We're going to bid this all the way through.
I know.
Because I haven't seen the paperwork, I failed to see where you're comparing, and maybe I'm not privy to it. I'm the director of community maintenance, maybe I'm not privy to it. But I don't understand how you're comparing apples to apples other than pre-construction materials, and then you can say, I guarantee that this contractor will do this job when all you're approving is based on his word and no contract.
Well, let's go through a little bit about what the board has seen, okay? And I know you're not going to be able to read this. This is what the board has seen. The board has seen a series of tasks, if you will, through a progression of what the total amount would be. What we need to see is what the total is that we're committing to this firm. You know, that's the question. Because if you just take a look at this, Johnson and Galen is 15,000, okay, and that's fine. But then you got general conditions, that's 433. You get to O&H and profit, that's another 625 for an estimated total of 1,073,000. And I could go through the rest of them that we see. I believe what the board really wants to know is if we're going to use this firm for the whole thing, what's the whole price?
We are 60% into the design development at this point.
Need the microphone, please.
We are 60% into design development at this point with the architect. There's no way we can get an accurate price of what the overall project is going to cost.
Well, if that's a true statement, Dave, and I'm not trying to be argumentative here, but if we approve the 15,000, then when we get to the next phase, we ought to be able to select whoever's going to do the next phase of work for whatever price they say they're going to do it for.
And I have had, and I'm just being, in my experience, firms that have agreed to assist with the club in any major construction project by providing pre-construction services, knowing that that gets their foot in the door and starts the relationship process with that organization in the hopes that they then will have an advantage over others to get the job. But, and that's always, I've had that happen on many occasions. And they are very comfortable in providing their skills and services to win you over by committing only to pre-construction services. So that was the point and the quest that the FAC was making. They said, okay, we see these numbers, but where is the guarantee that these numbers don't change, profit margin, general conditions, when the final scope is determined, which is always based on final construction drawings. Whenever you go out to memberships, and when my prior clubs had to vote for these initiatives, you always emphasize, which I know you have done, these are estimates because you cannot know really accurately from a knowledge standpoint and a timing standpoint of the market till you have those final construction drawings. And that's a process that the general contractor ideally goes through hand in hand as our contractor, our GC, with the architect, so that they know exactly when they go to bids to the subs what that scope of work is and what that entails, and there's no more it cuts down change orders and the like, which I know you're familiar with, but I'm just not understanding why they're, if they are, one, not willing to provide pre-construction services in lieu of a complete and final contract, or two, why then we can, if that is the case, then we need to see the full agreement before we can commit. That's my opinion.
With respect, this has been discussed with the board. Greg, while you were running the Druid project, it was discussed way back then. And so why the sudden change?
I'm not saying there's a change, okay?
That sounds like it.
Well, hold on. I think what the board is asking for is what's the total of all of the work that we're having this group do? And whether or not that total, they're willing to sign a contract for what that total is, not just a piece at a time where we're not going to take it out to bid if they fail on the first part of it.
And Dave, nothing is,
You got the total for
60.2 million, 60.3.
the OH&P, the general conditions, and pre-construction.
Well, I see the totals, okay? I remember, you know, talking about that, and that was done last month. I'm fine with the totals, but what I think the board is asking is, we're asking to approve 15,000 now,
Right.
but what does that do to the total? That's what we don't know. So we don't know if we're approving 15,000 and it's going to turn into, it's right now total estimated of $1,073,507. What we don't know is that number is going to change.
It's not going to change, I'm telling you.
can we get a memo of understanding
Yeah,
from
can we
that
get
firm
something from them?
today to send to us?
Typically, what we've done on any contract is we approve the money, then you sit down and you go through a contract. And if you cannot negotiate that contract per the proposal, then you don't sign the contract. This is no different. Now, what I'm hearing is what you'd rather have in this car is the total number, Greg,
Yeah.
not the $15,000. And then, so if we get that total number, which I don't have it in front of me, you do, you put that in this car, and then you approve that. Then you sit down with the contractor and say, per your proposal, here's what we're going to contract you
Right.
for, and that's the dollars.
Yeah.
And in fairness to all, the FAC simply was saying, yeah, we're fine with pre-construction and what's being asked for in this car, but we want to be clear that that's not committing us to this firm until we have or more information. We were told at the start of this back and forth that no, that is not the case. We are committing to them, and that causes pause. So.
Okay, and so a couple of comments there. One, I wish the FAC would have asked Dave and I that question when we were in the meeting, but they did not. The second part is if you want the total in this car, Greg, we can redo the car and put the total in there, and then when you approve it, again, you're not committing
No, I
to that
understand that.
contract. You sit down and you do a contract, and then the board will end up approving that contract before they ever get a dollar.
And I think that's where we are. I think that, you know, having the total in there, okay, then that tells us what it is. If we can't negotiate the contract to get to that total that we're approving, then we have a different issue.
So for tomorrow, David, just rewrite the car and include that total number that is on that spreadsheet and attach the spreadsheet to it as well.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear. I'm hearing two things. The total versus whether or not we approve them for the whole thing or not.
Well, here's the way I would say it, is what we would be approving is the total for the estimated cost for the contract. Now, when they go back and they negotiate the terms and conditions and the contract itself, right now there's $1,073,507. So that's kind of the cap. If we negotiate something smaller or that number, then we're fine. If it comes back when we sit down with them and say, no, it's going to be $1.3 million, then that contract may or may not be approved by the board.
Then we'll have to come back to
Yeah,
the board and talk
exactly.
about that.
What was the specific concern, Bill, from FAC?
The note says that the recommendation for J&G is pre-construction services only. There is a note attached as part of the discussion with the FAC and the approval of this amount for this car that Dave is presenting, with a note, and it addresses Bruce's question, that the FAC did ask, and that's why they added the note to it, to make sure that we were all in agreement on what was happening with this single piece, this car. And I quote, recommendation for J&G pre-construction services only, period. Final construction drawings will assist general contractor selection. So there was a separation. That was part of the discussion.
Was not part of the discussion when we were in the room, Bruce.
Yes, it was.
No, it was not.
I beg to differ.
Okay,
Maybe it
fine.
was stated different, but, and again, it may be everybody's understanding.
Well,
But there were a lot of us in the room that understood this.
What I'm hearing now, Greg, is we will rewrite, David will rewrite that car for that number. Then
For
we
the
will
total.
sit down, yeah, and if approved, then we will sit down with the contractor and negotiate that contract.
Yeah,
That's,
and
that's exactly,
it's clear that J&G is the preferred GC, no doubt.
It's
So
true.
that's clear.
Yeah.
And so it's not an issue with, we're going back out into another competition or, selection process. That's not what was being, they're just wanting to make sure, which can and can possibly happen, but the information was not available, that once final drawings are submitted or completed, that suddenly the fee changes, And again, with what the scenario we're talking about would be a stopgap from that happening.
Right.
So if they, for whatever reason, say, oh, well, upon further inspection, our fee's going to be $300,000 more, we're going to say time out, before we go any further.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
That's where we need to be.
All right.
So that I'm clear, from my perspective, we're only approving the 15,000.
No, we're
no, we're gonna
rewrite.
rewrite the car for the total amount. And
I
that's
get
kind
that,
of,
but we're not approving the total amount.
no, we will,
Yes.
because what we're doing with that is, we're then gonna sit down and negotiate the contract for the whole scope of work. And if it comes in more than that number, then we are going to vote on whether or not we're gonna give them the contract.
This would be similar to when you approved the $1 million for the Golf Performance Center.
Exactly.
And then it came in at $950.
Right.
But you didn't spend those dollars until you had a final agreement.
Because what we don't want to have happen is approving different scopes of work as we go along and find out the total is $300,000 more than what we thought it was going to be
I
at
get
the
all that. I
beginning.
just want to make sure the documentation that we get in front of us to approve is accurately reflects everything we're
And
discussing.
it
Yeah.
will be tomorrow,
It will,
Scott.
that's right.
Well, the car should be for $1,073,507.
Well, plus the $2,500.
Okay,
Correct.
yeah, yeah,
For the hazardous
Yes.
materials, right.
Right.
yeah, that's the car that we ought to see.
Let me just explain the logic behind, we only submitted 15,000. So there will be a construction CAR.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, once we get the bids back from all the subcontractors. To me, it makes more sense because the general conditions and the OH&P are part of that total construction project. And so the idea was to present these fees at that time with the total project cost. But at the same time, the contract that we end up negotiating would specify these fees. But the CAR would only be for pre-construction services at this point. So the logic.
I understand the logic, but I think what the board's saying is, we want to look at the total. And if we don't know what the total is and we don't know what we're negotiating against the total, then we have a legitimate question about what we're really approving.
All right, so one of you is going to sign the contract. That information will be in the contract before we pay 1 penny.
I understand that. And I think we're all in agreement, in violent agreement really, that that's what we want. So what we're asking though is, what we're gonna approve, I think, for the car is the $1,073,000 plus the 2,500. And when you negotiate the contract, if it comes out to be $1,005,000, then we're gonna have a legitimate conversation around whether or not we're gonna approve that contract. If it comes back at $1,073,000, you'll have the approval, that won't be a big problem. But if it comes out to be a whole lot more than that, then we're gonna have to have a conversation.
All I can tell you is you're changing the game plan in the middle, but I'll do what you want.
Well, that's what we need,
Okay.
okay?
I don't understand the game plan. What are we talking about, Dave? What game plan?
As I said earlier, Scott, we have been talking about this approach for well over a year. And I thought everybody understood what we were proposing.
Well, I haven't been here for over a year. so
Well, we talked about it last week.
So where's the gap? I'm trying to understand the gap between.
Well, the gap is,
and what we're
the
doing.
gap, as I understand it, is that there are concerns that by approving this car, we're going to commit to a contractor long-term to build Druid. And that we're really committing more than $15,000. We're committing what J&G has in for their other services. And so what I'm hearing is the board really wants to go ahead, see the total number, approve that, then sit down and negotiate that contract within that number.
So that total we're talking about is a cap. It's
Yeah,
not an actual.
exactly.
We're only approving a certain dollar amount to contract to, and we'll come back later.
And if it-
And
if
whatever that number becomes in the contract, if it's the number that we have on the spreadsheet or lower, there won't be an issue. If it comes out more, then this board's gonna have to decide whether or not it's gonna take the
Depending on
contract.
what we get. for
Right,
that amount,
exactly.
not just the
Well,
dollar.
and the board will see the contract.
Yeah,
Because you'll have, I won't be here, but you'll have to approve the contract.
Right.
No matter what it comes out.
I just want to
And
make
Da-
sure we're all on the same page as to what that game plan is that has been
And
discussed for more than a year.
Dave, this is, and Bruce, this is exactly what was being discussed Friday at the Major Projects Planning Committee meeting about having a project with an amount, but then below it, the cars that contribute to that overall project number. You know, in many ways, it's the same type
Right.
of thing, so.
That's fine. Dave will rewrite it and we'll do it tomorrow.
okay? All
Do
right.
the easy one now, Dave.
I thought this one was going to be easy.
Before we leave that, Dave, what your original deal was for 18,500, which
Correct.
included their $15,000 EAI for 2,500 and a contingency of 1,000. And the number that you're talking about, Greg, is what numbers are included in the 1,073,000 from that grid
Yeah.
that you've got there.
Exactly.
Is the 15,000 already in that number?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yes.
How about the 2,500?
No, that's separate, so that'll be another
And then
2,500 on top of that
And then
number.
there's a contingency of 1,000. So the
Well,
new
if
number.
we're going to do the whole 1.01 million.
Your
I'm
contingencies.
going to put more in the contingency.
Okay, good.
Okay?
Yep,
Everybody clear?
yep.
All right?
Nico Sergio, when Dave redoes the car for
Could you speak into the mic?
Yep, I am.
Thank you.
When Dave does this for tomorrow, could he itemize the different things? Because just putting out the 18,000 today was confusing.
Well,
So
I
could we
think-
have
I think, Nico,
it broken
where
down
we-
into
I
three,
think
two or
where
three?
we are, rather than get that specific, we've seen the spreadsheet. What we're approving is the total contract, okay? So however they want to split it up, I don't want to get into each individual section because I'm worried about the total, not each individual section. So what we're going to approve in the car, I believe, will be the total plus the 2,500. That'll get us the hazardous material stuff, and it will also get us the total agreement. We need to find out where we are with the total agreement, because if it comes out back more than the total, then we're going to have a fair discussion about whether or not we're going to approve it.
So what I'm asking for is the J and G part, the hazardous part, and then the $1,000 contingency.
Yeah,
So that's just 3 items.
Yeah, the car tomorrow will have the J&G cost, it'll have the hazard materials cost, and it'll have the contingency.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's what I'm asking.
We'll do
Thank
that,
you.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay?
Hello, Carrie Trees. Is J and G decided for the car based on pre-construction numbers over the other options? You said there were 3, correct? Or is that an assessment of looking at a potential overall cost between all 3 companies? Because again, I'm in agreement that the overall cost is the most important to the members, as we are the ones that pay for this.
Yeah, the spreadsheet, Carrie, that the board has looked at and the FAC has looked at was the overall cost for all 3 contractors in comparison.
Okay, so that initial number for pre-construction is just a
It's
snippet
just a
of
part
everything that's been
That's a
looked
part
at?
of the total.
3 phases
Okay.
of that, yes.
So J and G, is that decided because they are the lowest cost? Is it decided because they are the best option, or is there a combination of both?
I would say both.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
too.
That's the question I asked.
Okay.
It wasn't lowest cost, it was
Yeah.
what's the
Right,
evaluation?
just confirming, because again,
Yeah.
we're talking about members' money here.
Right,
So we
right.
want to make sure that,
Good point.
Yes, and for further,
Absolutely.
Dave, the architect, and a representative from the committee as well, all vetted all 3 firms. They actually asked them to go back and sharpen their pencils or reevaluate their bids.
Perfect.
They then interviewed them a second time and then made their final recommendation.
okay, wonderful, thank you.
Okay? All right.
All right, should I try the easier one?
Yeah.
See if I
You're on a roll, Dave.
Here's your sign.
Speaking of sign.
Yeah. So this CAR is the first step in the Emergency Services Center. And so we wrote a CAR earlier this year to hire the architect and engineer to come up with conceptual drawings, which will then morph into detailed engineering. The budget for this was $250,000. The CAR for the engineering was $179,000. So we have $71,000 remaining from what was budgeted for this year. So we are going to use that money to build a new sign shop. So the sign shop will be located across from Maintenance Boulevard in the fenced-in area that maintenance uses. And that gets this building out of the way then for construction of the new ESC. And so the cars for $71,000. We had 3 bids on that, 2 from outside firms, 1 from our maintenance people, the POA had the time to do it. And so they were the low bidder. And so this is based on our maintenance team, along with a little bit of outside help doing this work.
How many square feet is it?
Not,
Since we're streaming, let's make sure that everybody else heard. The question was, how many square feet was the building?
yeah, I didn't bring that with me. It's not that big. Might be 20 by 40, something like that.
24 by 46.
Yeah, it's 24 by 46 with a 12-foot overhead door.
Yeah, 24 by 46.
Thank you.
Okay?
So it's pretty much a duplication of what they currently have. But the building they currently have, if it weren't for the metal siding that we put on a number of years ago, that building would fall down. It's in bad shape.
All right? Come up here. Come on. People, Carrie, people have to hear what you're saying.
I'm pretty loud, so we're taking a building down.
It's not on.
You cannot hear when you're watching online if people don't talk into the. That's just the way it is. I watch it all the time, and I can't hear them.
So we're going to raise, which is destroy a building to build a new one, correct? In the same location?
The only thing this project covers is building the new building.
It can't accommodate the new building on the site with that building still there, plus that building is in bad shape, as was already described.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. We're going to raise a building and just build a new one.
But that building does not, the site for the the emergency building cannot fit properly on that site with that building there.
Right.
And so that building, which would have been scheduled for demo anyway, because of its current condition and safety of employees working in there, is being raised and moved across the street.
Okay, that was my next question, is where's the building going? I understand the building's in bad
It's
condition.
going across the street inside the fencing of the maintenance area.
Okay, and what is the full responsibility of the sign shop?
If I may.
Sure.
Be my guest.
I'm going to make it up to Dave here. If anybody doesn't know, the sign shop is currently where the compost pile was, where the EMS building or the emergency services building is going. That sign shop is used by my roads department to store the signs, to do welding in for the signs, to paint the posts. They work out of that shop. There's two problems with that. The sign shop is like me. It looks good on the outside, but inside I'm a mess. You like that? So one of the things that we talked about was that I've been trying to do for a couple of years is get that shop behind, secure with the rest of my buildings, behind the fence that's on the left side when you turn on Maintenance Boulevard. The shop, the shop itself, Dave is right, if you pull the siding off, the best part of that sign shop is the garage door, and that's because we put it on a couple years ago. So we're going to salvage everything we can.
Okay.
Move it over. We have a spot picked out. We've had a spot picked out. We got to get it out for the emergency services. And the size is, if you look at it, is divisible by 3 because sheet metal comes in 3-foot sections. So I think it was originally submitted for 23 by 46, and we just moved it a foot. It'll be virtually identical. It moves it behind the fence for safety and security reasons.
Okay. And some of these questions are because as we do have new members in our community, fortunately, we do have more people listening and paying attention to what's happening, and a lot of people don't know. So it's just letting our members get more information on the community. So thank you, Sam.
You're welcome. And we have moved the compost pile. If anybody's gone over there, it's literally across the street from where it used to be. We put in a road, the compost pile's there, the chip and seal pile's gone now. The county has moved that or used that. So that area is being cleaned up in preparation for construction of the emergency services building. Any questions?
Okay.
I just don't think you look as good on the outside as you.
What?
I wasn't going to say that, so.
One of the audience members asked what the other building is. There's another building there that if you look at it, it's a larger, taller building. What we're doing with that, I can't speak to that, but I think it's part of the plan, but I'm not really sure. I don't think they fully. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to use it for part of the, I don't want to speak at it.
It's in the
Yeah,
hopper.
let's not get
It's
into
in the
that right
hopper.
now, because we're still in discussion with a lot of the ESC stuff.
Currently, I'm not in that building, and I don't know what's going on.
Okay? All right. Bruce.
Evans.
Evans.
Good morning once
Three of
again.
them stand up.
So I'm presenting a car this morning for an all-inclusive sewer extension this time. Design work, permitting work, and in-house construction of a sewer extension down Pomeroy Drive from Westchester, down Newcastle Lane to Warwickshire, the intersection of Warwickshire, and the entire length of Stillington Loop. This was on the next part of our sewer extension plan per sewering around the lakes, and Pomeroy has some prime building lots along it. So the total cost of the PR, I'm asking for $87,860, $7,630 of it for engineering and permitting, and $80,230 of it for in-house construction.
Have the letters all been sent out to?
They have not. They will be sent out now.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Hi, I'm you. I'm sorry. I'm a resident of Pomeroy Road Drive.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
My name is Pat Brazier. I'm curious, since you said it was going to go around the lake, did you already have plans for it to go down Bainbridge?
We do not. So right now, I'm not quite sure how far past Stillington Loop it's going to go. So it's going to end before, most of the houses are past Stillington Loop, and we're going to end it somewhere in that vicinity, and I'm not quite sure based on, that will be decided by the engineering company.
So if you end it before or after Stillington Loop, you still won't hit all the houses on the lake. And I ask this because I'm on Pomeroy Road.
Sure.
And I can't even see the lake from my house, so obviously I'm getting sewer that I really don't. Sewer for the purposes of being on the lake where I don't live on a lake. So my questions on this are, as you're going by, if I decide I want to have a sewer system with the grinder, maceration pump, are you going to put it in at that time, or are you only building the lines?
Well, we can't put it in at that time because the line won't be active until the line is active. And then what you would do is put in a request to tie in.
Okay, and you would have the expertise contractors, both for the electric aspect of the grinder pump to my house and the plumber aspect to go down, because my water lines run directly to my kitchen.
So our responsibility would be to set a grinder pump, run electric cable, mount the box on the side of the house, run the discharge from your grinder pump to the road and tie it in, and then your responsibility, and we would assist you in this, your responsibility would be to hire an electrician, have the wires stubbed out so that we could tie the box on the side of the house, and then hire a plumber to make the connection between your septic system, your septic tank, and the new grinder pump.
So are you going to be like the Angie's List of plumbers and electricians?
We have a list. We can't make a recommendation, but we have a list of both licensed electricians and licensed plumbers.
Okay. My next question is probably more towards the board than for you.
Okay.
Is there going to be like a zero finance or a payment plan for this? Because I understand it's $27.60 a square foot as you come along of my property.
It averages about $2,100. One-time payment availability fee.
Okay, is that, it doesn't matter how much frontage I have, it's going to be an average of 2,100?
It does, but there's a calculation. So once you go over that standard benchmark of 2,100, then the rates drop down significantly. If you've got 150 feet of road frontage or whatever, then the rates are significantly cheaper after that 2,100.
Okay. Next question would be, as more people add these grinder pumps, because we choose to have sewer, are you going to be hiring additional people to work the 24-hour service center for when they go, the red light goes on?
So we don't answer alarms 24 hours. Right now, we've got, Fairfield has over 5,500 of the pumps in the ground. We've got a 4-man crew that maintains the grinder pumps, answers alarm calls. We answer alarm calls between 7 and 3. The grinder pumps have a 30-gallon sump, and so when the red light comes on, if it's after hours, the answering service, the greeting recommends that you conserve water until the next morning. We come out the next morning. We do that to try and keep the department from going bankrupt, having people on call 24/7, paying them overtime 24/7. And with the grinder pump, with the 30-gallon sump, it's worked out pretty well.
Okay. Not sure if this is my last question or not, but I've seen what 20 Loop, the road looks like as the construction is going down it.
Sure.
And I know that Pomeroy Road isn't the best paved road. It's not looking like, you know, how Lakeside Drive looks on the pretty side. Are you going to come back and repave our roads?
Well, we install the sewer outside the limits of the road. So Tawny Oak, the only time we're crossing the road is in front of driveways. That's the only time we're in the road.
Have you driven down Tawny Road? Because I just walked down there last week.
Yeah, there's no damage on Tawny Oak Loop that's a result of the sewer installation.
Okay. I'm going to say it looks kind of rough.
If it looks rough, it was rough before we started, because
Okay.
we're not installing any sewer inside the limits of the road.
Okay. And almost my last question, but it'll be my last question so I don't get out my other 15. Can I email you with further questions?
Sure,
I mean, I'll go.
sure.
I owe it to you to go back and look at previous board meetings to see if some of the answers are there.
Sure.
But can I?
If you have questions, you email me,
All right.
B. Evans.
EVANS, right?
Yes, ma'am.
At?
fairfieldglade.cc.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Any more questions about this one? Okay.
Thank you much.
Sam, you're going to talk about the TrackMan room.
I'm presenting a CAR for $33,000. This CAR is, they are moving the TrackMan room to the Performance Center, and we have to restore that TrackMan room to a usable classroom. When the TrackMan went in there several years ago, we had to raise the ceiling, raise the sprinklers, move lights, remove lights, and since the TrackMan room is being moved, we're redoing that. We got to lower the ceiling. We got to lower the sprinkler systems. We're painting the room. The ceiling tiles that were removed or damaged during the use as TrackMan room are no longer available. We're replacing them, and we're removing the carpet that's outdated and worn, and we're replacing that with vinyl flooring. And that's $33,000. Is there any questions on that?
This is a part of the Druid Hills deal, because Central Tea Times is going to be moving over to the library C room. And when we make that move, we need to accommodate where people can have meetings, that type of thing. So that's one of the things that caused us to have to do the TrackMan room.
Now, Sam, this is covering the cost of the work that's currently progressing?
Yeah. I do want to add, this is unfunded, okay? They're able to do this from savings in other capital areas, which is what Bruce was talking about earlier.
Yeah, because we've done a review of all that, and there's capital available from other projects to cover the cost of this.
Right. Nico Sergio, and that was my question, is they've already started that work.
Yes.
So I didn't quite understand why you were asking for money when you've already started the project.
We started the work because of a timing issue and contractors and things of that nature. I planned on doing the work. There was discussions about, since this was unfunded, do we have to put it in my budget or take it out of my budget? And I looked for savings, and they were able to find the money under a CAR for Druid. Okay? Any other questions?
Sorry.
Right up
Sorry,
there.
What's the end, Ted Landers, what's the end result for the use for that room? I didn't catch that.
Well,
It will be an additional meeting space and it's going to be able to accommodate up to about between about 50 seats. So it'll be available for small events, for meetings, for just additional gathering space for here in this building.
It'll be multi-purpose, but the key thing is, Ted, is that what we needed to do is find another space, since people had scheduled meetings and that type of thing over in C. Now we're going to move them over here, and then there'll be additional things. There'll be some open space for people to have other things go on in there. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Major capital projects. Druid Hills.
Sure you want to talk about this?
I'm sure we do.
Okay. The Performance Center construction is continuing, and we're still looking at a construction completion date of October 23rd. The clubhouse and site work, the construction drawings are progressing with the target completion of the construction drawings around mid-September. The next step is, you heard earlier about the car that we're going to present. Still on schedule, that was presented at last month's meeting. If you go back and look at last month's meeting, I presented a schedule for the project, and that schedule is still valid. So you can go out on the member website and see that PDF that I put up, and it's got the schedule on it. So if you want to keep track of the project, schedules are out on the website.
Bruce, just one quick correction. So construction drawings will not be complete September 15th. What will be complete is the next architectural design.
Okay.
Development.
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. All right.
So the engineers have not even started.
Okay, so his conceptual designs will be done in mid-September, given to the engineers to start actual construction drawings. Yeah, okay.
And then those drawings go to the engineers to start their work.
Okay, all right.
We don't expect construction drawings until mid-December.
Okay, all right, thanks, Dave. The bocce courts, the carpet's been installed on the courts. The coverings are in progress with the metal roofs installed. Landscaping and the sidewalks are near completion, and we're still looking at trying to finish that up by the end of the month.
Okay. Ken?
So on the Emergency Services Complex, AEI out of Cookville continues to work on both the architectural design and the engineering work for the Emergency Services Complex project, as well as doing some initial exterior conceptual drawings. As was mentioned earlier, the county has finished the process of removing the crushed stone pile that was right in the middle of the site. We have also the latest draft of the proposed architectural drawings and the site plan have been reviewed by the board in conjunction with a financial review compared to the proposed project budget. And we will be scheduling a meeting in the near future to go over the site plans and the architectural drawings with the ESC planning group. And that will be scheduled here in the next week or two, probably.
Next week.
Okay. Member comments? One.
I just want to say, first of all, you've heard me talk about transparency. It was the best discussion I've seen in I don't know how long amongst the board and the projects. So thank you for doing that. I really appreciate it. It ties into, I got a couple of things, ties into, first of all, In Tennessee, you guys, I'm sure are aware, the Tennessee Homeowners Association Act took effect July 1st. And again, I'm not an attorney, but when you go through one of the aspects of that bill, and they were very specific, I felt, on executive sessions and what is allowed in executive session and what is not. And when I look at your agenda on the executive session, as well as kind of discussions that you've had back and forth, what I wonder is, are we in compliance? And I know it's new, July 1st took effect. So I'm asking the board to come back to us and tell us what's going to be different in your executive sessions moving forward in compliance with this. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I have is for the board consideration, and I'll give you copies. I can't thank you enough for what you did, Bruce, last meeting, spelling out Druid and all the costs, and then the capital reserves. Very honestly, and it's not a backhanded compliment, I just wish it would have happened at the workshop because it was very good information on it. It as a member, helped me a lot. What I'm proposing to you and would like to pass out, though, is kind of a connection with the reserve study and ties in Druid a little bit. But we have the capital spending as part of the reserve and all the projects listed. And what I'm asking the board to consider is dividing them up into 3 buckets and helping us understand as you progress through the reserve study. So 3 buckets that I see are new amenities. You've got Druid Hills and, you know, the major new projects. You got the existing amenities, and so new amenities, based on the study, is about $26.6 million. Existing amenities, so that's the going into what we're spending on the existing facility, so to speak, the existing amenities. And that number from the study, if I got it right, was about $6.5 million. And then we have the non-amenities. So, you know, those are the POA major projects coming up. I'm assuming that's the fire department and all that other stuff. POA regular maintenance, you know, the reserve study, M&R, and so forth. And that's about 40 million. So in my mind, those are our 3 major buckets of spending based on the reserve study. Then let's take and look at the buckets then that are going to fund them. And that's not identified in the reserve study. This is what I'm asking the board to consider and how I've looked at it. So the funding for the new amenities, we're going to have the loan, a source of money, about 13 million. We're going to have assessments. And again, this is my breakdown. I would equate those to new amenities. So that total is about 42 million. So we're going to spend 26 million, but in my allocation for new amenities, we'd have about 42 million. Then on the existing amenities, you've got the amenity revenue from the 2% that you imposed. That should go to existing amenities in my mind. It's a bucket. And then we're also going to have to look at that amenity reserve fee, the property transfer piece of it, and how you allocate that. So my thinking is you might allocate a good portion of that, again, to existing amenities, not to new, because, Greg, as you've been adamant about, and the board, the buyers coming in are going to pay for what we've already paid for, the existing amenities. Therefore, that capital, or at least some of it, should go there, in my thinking. And then you've got non-amenities, and you got revenue there of the bad debt recovery, lot sales mergers, interest on the capital funds. And there, I looked at then an allocation to the property transfer to break it out. So in other words, what I'm asking is match up the three expenditures, match up the funding to those expenditures so that we can see how that is going to flow and not just leave it an open X dollars going to all of the fund of the reserve.
I think we can do some of that, Tom, but some of it's going to be actually timing, because we don't want to go out and get a loan before we need it.
Right.
Okay? So some of this will be timing. So I understand what you're saying, and we certainly need to make sure that we report what we're doing on revenue and expenses. Agree with that completely. But some of it's going to be timing. It may not fit as nicely in the buckets that you described.
Well, and I'll give you a copy just of the spreadsheet so you can look at. I understand there'll be timing issue. More so I want, and I guess the example that I could take and point to is, as a person using the amenities, golf, on and on and on, that 2%, I want it to go to the existing amenities. I don't want it to take and go to POA. And right now, it can, as I understand it, right? So I'd like you to be a little bit more specific.
No, I get it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead and pass it out if you got something there.
I'll let you guys do
Okay. Thank you.
So on these pass outs, I would ask, do you have a soft copy that can go to Pat so we can make it part of the record when people hand stuff out?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Ted?
I just want to say thank you for publishing the reserve study. I've read through that. It's a fascinating document.
That's not the word I would use, but
Well,
okay.
no, it is. It's actually very fascinating. I mean, it really tells you a lot about the state of the association and what needs to be addressed and stuff. Having an outside person look critically at our buildings and all the items that were required to maintain was actually very enlightening, and it certainly paints a blueprint for where we need to be focusing our efforts in order to maintain our existing infrastructure, which saves us costs in the long run. I noticed that while many things have been updated in there, that I did not see that there's one page, and it was page 17 of Bruce's study back in October at the budget meeting, and it showed the 30-year study with revenue in the reserve and then the cash flow differences over the course of the years. Is the board planning on updating that, even if it's in the first 10 years that you're talking about?
That will be a moving target every year, because you can't just take the reserve study and transfer all those projects from one year into the budget. Because what has to happen is people like Sam and Bill have to take a look at those things and say, yeah, this is what we really need to do this year. Now, what we're not doing, and Bruce was a big proponent of this, is we're not going to cancel anything, okay? We may move it from year to year, but we're not canceling anything. So, yeah, we'll kind of get to that, but it won't be nearly as clean as the reserve study. But our plan is to every so often, and we think every third year, we will probably look at the reserve study again, because we got other assets coming on board. You know, we've got things like Druid, we got things like the ESC, things like that we're going to be bringing assets in, and they have to move into that reserve study as well.
Okay, well, I just...
But I get what you're saying.
It's really handy to see where we are long-term and how we're doing funding-wise on the capital reserve.
Believe me, we need to track that, yeah,
But
I agree.
It is a very long read, but it's interesting.
Jeannie Guide. I have a very simple question. Governmental Relations Committee, that's still in existence, right?
Yes.
Are the minutes stored somewhere else? Because the last one I could find was July of 2020.
By and large, we don't publish those meetings because, quite honestly, we have people there that are elected officials that they want to talk about things, but they don't want that out in the general public. So we would probably have to disband that committee if we started publishing those minutes.
I produce the minutes, and rarely is there anything that I can put
Yeah.
for public consumption on.
Really?
Yeah.
Are people allowed to attend?
No.
No. Okay,
You-
strange.
The whole purpose of that committee is to have a dialogue between the board, or the community really, represented by the board, and elected officials.
Okay.
So
So-
there's, you want to talk about, you can talk about the membership of that committee.
Well, yeah, the membership is, the county mayor comes.
Yeah.
We invite on the second meeting of the month, the commissioners.
Right.
We have Greg Hansen, who's with the Water Authority. Scott and I are on that committee, so is Ken right now. Who am I forgetting?
BEC.
Yeah, pardon me?
Phil Smith.
Phil Smith, he's with
Yeah.
VEC. Yeah, Bill comes as well.
Roads Commissioner, or Roads, John Wedgeworth.
Yeah, John Wedgeworth, the Planning Commission. So those are the people that are in attendance.
So nothing can be shared with us?
They're, basically, the format of the meeting right now, and Greg and I are having some conversation on it, is each just gives an update on what's happening in their particular area of expertise, like Phil will give an update on BEC. Sometimes they're topics that we can discuss, others are things that we can't share because of what they're doing in their particular area.
It feels very secretive. Like, is this an Oak Ridge project or something? I mean, it's just.
No, it's
I
not,
get-
it's
I
not
get
meant
the
to
sense.
be that,
Yeah.
but we do get in conversations sometimes with
Okay.
some of the elected officials that they really want it to stay within the room.
I understand
I
that,
think-
but
I-
is there something
I
that
think
can be shared?
if I think minutes can be provided, and those topics that are privileged would be noted.
Okay, I would
Yes.
really appreciate that, because
Yeah.
I'm really curious about what goes
Yes.
on in
Yes,
local
I mean,
government.
there's a lot,
We
there's,
can publish the minutes, Bill, but basically what you're gonna get is the same thing every month.
Right.
That BEC gave an update, that the Water Authority gives an update,
Right.
that Planning Commission gives an update, so.
A lot of the details, for obvious reasons, when they just don't want to talk about that in the public because it's things they're thinking about or possibly going to do, and those things really aren't ready for public dissemination. And they have other forums where they have to disclose that stuff publicly. So, you could look at the planning commission, or I'm sorry, the commission notes and things like that. But by and large, a lot of those conversations are really us talking to them and them talking to us about things that, at this point, are maybe half-baked or maybe even a quarter-baked. And if they got out in the general public, we would probably have to disband the committee.
Well, Scott and Bill, if you can come up with some kind of little minutes to put out, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I tell you what we can do is we can kind of give, unless one of them tells us exclude this from the minutes, we can at least give you the general topics. We might not be able to give you a whole description of what they shared with us.
Okay.
But at least topic-wise.
Okay,
Is that all right?
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Come up here.
A great question is on my list, and on my list mainly from the aspect, I went out also the other day and looked at it and went, we don't have a committee, because there was no minutes or anything, since whenever. The part I went out to look for is, as I thought government relations and how it meant, I was looking for things like, what are we doing working in Nashville with potential legislation and so forth that's happening? And that I would, as a member, like to know where the committee is going on some of that. Because quite frankly, I also would like to know if the board is looking at going to Nashville, maybe asking for changes in certain aspects, certain laws and so forth. they may fly in the face of what I'm looking for, okay? May make your jobs easier, but it may,
Well, you recognize, Tom, when we do that, we're doing it representing the community, not our personal beliefs.
well, you're representing the community maybe from a board view.
Well, that's what we do. That's what we're supposed to do.
Okay. Let me give you a poor example, but one that I can only think of right now.
Are you asking us to put it up for a vote every time we talk about this?
No, Scott. What I'm asking for is if you looked at, let's just say hypothetically that you looked at the new Tennessee HOA Act.
We did.
And you looked at that and said, there are items in here such as the executive meetings. It's too, we don't want to see that. It's too confining for us. So we want to work to get that changed. From a member standpoint.
Are you talking to Tom's standpoint or an entire member standpoint?
Tom as a member.
Okay.
Tom as a member. You want to be argumentative as a member.
Argumentative? I'm just getting clarification, Tom, of what you're talking about.
Thank you. And the point being on it, and if you read what that act was intended to do.
Which act number are you talking about, by the way?
Hang on. I have it right here. Act HB House Bill 2209, Tennessee Homeowners Association Act.
Thank you.
I am talking about the section that deals with, and I don't have the code numbers, but I am talking about the session as the example of executive sessions. And I already shared that with you earlier about, they talk very specifically about, it's mainly intended for talking to your attorney on legal matters, potential litigation, personnel matters. It doesn't, contracts. And it also is, to prevent public knowledge of matters to be discussed if the executive board or committee determines that public knowledge would violate the privacy of any person. Those are examples of where it's permitted. Go down your list of things you talk about in executive sessions, and I would argue they're not on this list. Scott, to your point, all I'm saying is if you felt that that was too restrictive and had to be more closed and was going to Nashville to get amendments to this, I would just like to know that. So as myself, a member, I might be able to say, hey, wait a minute. Why is this so restraining? They want to provide more transparency, which was one of the reasons the bill was passed, to members.
I get that. How would you see that happening? With a general email, open for comments, or not just getting your viewpoint, but getting the entire viewpoint of the committee?
Well, that would be up to the committee. Part of it would be putting it out there, letting us know what you're actually going to take and look at doing. If you put it out there and there's no comments or anything else, great. Like I said, went out to the meeting, to the minutes, to see what was being worked on just the other day. You can check my log on so you can see it.
I'll take responsibility for that, because there wasn't anything from my perspective that just general conversation on the Government Relations Committee that I thought warranted meeting minutes, but the absence of it creates questions about what we're talking about. That's my fault. Even if it's a standard format of just high-level topics, there'll be something out there.
And that's beautiful. And no, you go there, 9 times out of 10, a lot of that stuff is probably going to, be something that I'd be saying, hey, this is great for the members. And there might just be some that I'd raise my hand and say, wait a minute, that's all. Thank you.
All right.
Okay? Any other member comments? Okay. Board member comments, items. Bruce Horn.
The first one is on Wildwood Stables. We received the the package from the committee, and there was a lot to it, believe me. There was 13 appendices and notes, and we're working through those. But I will call on Sam to give you all a brief 3,000-foot level, 30,000-foot level, let you know what's going on and what we're going to be discussing and have to deal with later today.
What I've been tasked with by the board is I've been involved in the Stables Committee since its inception. So the committee has given me information and recommendations and a lot of enclosures to go with that for me to collate and go through. I'm planning on giving the board numbers that I believe maintaining the stables would cost in the years 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Currently, the stables have been under a lease for many, many years. The lease is coming to an end. So what I'm presenting to the board is based on the inputs from the committee and research that mine and my maintenance team have done, what it would cost to bring that facility up to Fairfield Glade standards and what we need to do going forward to maintain that facility. And I'll be discussing that with the board today. That will include capital improvements and also operational improvements. There are things that I can do with operational money that I cannot do with capital and vice versa. It will also include possibly the hiring of personnel to operate the stable, a stables manager, a stable laborer, we're calling it. You cannot operate a stable Monday through Friday. I need somebody out there 7 days a week. I can't, one person cannot do that, two person probably cannot do that. So we're going to explore all those options as I lay them on the table in executive session. At that point, I've also been in contact with several people have come forward saying, hey, I may be interested in operating it as a lease. The problem with that is, in the current condition that it is, they would have to, if they operated it as a lease, they would have to then have a large capital expense at their own option to bring it up to do that. So there's a lot of discussions going on about what to do, when to do, and how to do with the stables. Is there any questions on that?
Thank you. So you can see there's a lot there. There's a lot of pieces, and we're working on them. And as soon as we've got come to some decisions, we'll get it out and let you know what the results of some of this analysis will, and that'll be published.
Okay.
Lot committees. It was, July actually was a slow month, but active. There were only 2 lot sales and 2 mergers. There are a number of lot transfers in process, but they haven't been booked. So there's some activities that has not been booked for lot sales for the month of July. We haven't got those final numbers yet. And the reserved lot merger policy. We have one that came in that needs to be addressed, discussed. It'll probably go back for revision, but we haven't, we'll get to that it was on the website, so if you wanted to see that. But that's going to be talked about in executive session to make sure everybody on this side is on the same page. And we'll decide if it needs to be updated and sent back for another review or not. And that's part of the discussion this afternoon. That's all I have.
I want to give an opportunity here. As you well know, we're in the voting stage of the elections. I think we have several people that are running. Can you stand up, please? Those of you that are running for the board. And please say your name so that people that are streaming understand that you're here. Because this is important that you're showing up to find out what's going on. Larry, we'll start with you.
Carrie Trees. Monica Heisel. Mary Kay Jacobson.
Okay, so we thank the 5 of you being here because it is important that you get a sense of what's going on, because 2 of you are going to be sitting up at this table in another month, and it's a very good thing that you get a sense of what the community's looking for, how the board's interacting, that type of thing. I remind everyone that you have until September 6th, 11:59 p.m. to get your votes in. If you think you have a problem with your ballot, whatever, please come to the admin building and please get it straightened out. We want to get those things taken care of as quickly as we can so that you can get your ballot or get straightened out whatever problem you might have. We haven't seen anything really big yet, so that's a good thing. We've had a lot of one-offs, but those have been taken care of pretty quickly. So please make sure you do vote. We're encouraging people to do that, and please get your votes in by September 6th, 11:59 p.m. Okay?
I actually would like to say something to that. I do find it a little upsetting that you state that there hasn't been any major issues with the voting. That is absolutely not true. It hasn't been made to the public as far as the whole community goes. But there were a number of members that did not receive their electronic ballots via email. That has been confirmed. Again, no public notice to the community, but that has been a problem.
Well,
it is being addressed. I don't want to say it's not.
Hold on.
But that has been a problem.
The words that I've gotten is that the majority of those that did not get their electronic minutes is because, or ballots is because we had the wrong email address. Now, if we don't have the right email address, we can't send it to someone. So let's not make this a major issue if it's something that we need to work through with the membership to get the right emails addresses and that type of thing. There has been nothing that I've seen anyway, and I think the election committee would say as well, that we've not seen any systematic problem because people that had good email addresses did not get ballots.
I will disagree with that, as I know several members that get the test email, they've gotten the notifications, they've checked their spam mail, and they have gotten confirmation that there was an email with an issue with the emails. So I just want to make that knowledge to the public.
Hopefully those people are coming forward and we're getting those straightened out.
I understand that. I just want to make a statement to the community that if you haven't gotten your ballot via email and you expect it via email, please go to the administrative office as they are working on.
I will make a statement to the public as general manager that I have met with staff on a regular basis since the ballots went out. There has not been any unusual uptick in issues with regarding ballots that have been brought to our staff's attention that have not been addressed and rectified in short manner. There's nothing unusual relative to prior years, but obviously when you're dealing with the volume of people that we have, that there can be an email issue. Oftentimes the spouse is not aware that it went to the other spouse. That has been a couple of cases, but we rectify it as quickly as possible, and there is, in fairness, a duty on the part of residents to make sure that their information, just like you would in a general election for any public official, that you have provided the appropriate information in a timely manner to be eligible to receive that ballot. So I'm just letting you know that that is where we are, as I understand, in my office.
And I agree with that. Just again, making a notice for members that might not have received it, expecting it via email to communicate with the administrative office.
And I believe emails have gone out to that effect.
I haven't seen a public email, but thank you.
Okay. Any other board comments?
I have one. A resident here at Fairfield Glade reported they had a plumber at their house, And he did tests on their water and said there was as much chlorine as a pool in their drinking water. Would that be something?
No, that'd be Crab Orchard.
Crab Orchard, okay. Well, maybe we need to look into that and make sure that that's, well, okay.
Okay. Anything else?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all for coming.